The night sky above Earth was calm. But deep in space, something strange was moving. Inside the orbital station, Sentinel-1, alarms began to ring. The crew rushed to the control room. Eyes wide, voices tight with fear. A new signal had appeared, and it was unlike anything they had seen before. The signal repeated again and again, a voice deep and calm. It was not in any known human language, yet somehow every person who heard it understood. The words were simple, chilling, unforgettable. My thirst is not for water. Will you quench it? The room went silent. The commander of Sentinel-1, Captain Rhodes, stared at the display. His hands tightened on the console, his breath sharp. What does that even mean? He whispered. The communication officer shook her head. It repeats every 7 minutes, sir. Same words, same tone. Earth Command was notified immediately. Military leaders, scientists, and political heads gathered across secure lines. Was it a message of peace or a warning or a trap? Nobody could tell. The message had no coordinates, no demands, only the strange thirst. But then the scanners found it, a massive ship, larger than any human battleship. Sliding slowly into Earth orbit, the vessel was silent. No weapons fired, no shields raised. It hung there like a mountain of black steel and glowing scars. Its surface pulsed with dim red light. Like veins carrying blood on the ground, people panicked. News channels broke the story within minutes. An alien craft here above Earth, asking for something that was not water. Some thought it was invasion. Others thought it was salvation. Religions across the planet called it a sign. For the first time in history, every human eye looked up at the same sky with the same fear. In the United Nations Secure Chamber, arguments exploded. Destroy it before it attacks, one general demanded. Wait, maybe they are asking for help, another leader argued. The scientists wanted to make contact. The soldiers wanted to load weapons. But before any decision could be made, the alien ship sent another signal. This time it was not words, it was an image. The hologram appeared inside the control rooms of Earth's military bases. A tall figure stood in silver-black armor, eyes burning like dying suns. Its voice carried weight, like thunder and sorrow mixed. Again it spoke, clear, echoing inside human minds. My thirst is not for water. Will you quench it? The figure bowed slightly, not as a servant, not as a ruler, but as a warrior carrying pain. Then the image vanished, leaving silence in its wake. Captain Rhodes, watching from orbit, felt his skin grow cold. This was not an invasion broadcast, it was a request. But what kind of thirst could a creature like that feel? What could they possibly want from humanity? The ship remained silent, waiting. Hours passed, tension rose. Fighter jets circled the skies. Warships positioned near the coasts. Every defense system humanity owned was on high alert. But the alien ship did not fire, did not move, did not threaten. It only waited, like a giant beast resting but ready. Inside Sentinel-1, Rhodes gathered his officers. We have two choices, he said quietly. We treat it as a threat, or we answer the question. His second officer frowned. But what if the answer costs us everything? Rhodes nodded, his jaw tight. And what if refusing costs even more? Suspense wrapped around the crew like chains. Every man and woman in the station knew the truth. History was about to turn one way or another. This was not a storm they could hide from, not a battle they could run from. The voice of the alien commander echoed in their heads, haunting, demanding. My thirst is not for water. Will you quench it? At that moment, Rhodes made the call. Prepare a communication channel, he ordered. If they want to speak, we will listen. The crew obeyed. Hands trembling over the consoles, a channel opened. Light flickered across the screens. The alien face appeared once more, eyes locked with human eyes. And with calm, almost sorrowful words, the commander repeated his request. My thirst is not for water. Will you quench it? The part ended in silence, no answer yet. Only the weight of the question. A question that carried mystery, danger, and perhaps the fate of two civilizations. The alien face stayed on the screen. Still and calm, his eyes glowed faintly like embers struggling to live. The crew of Sentinel-1 stared back in silence. Their hearts racing, no one dared to speak first. No one dared to break the moment. Then Captain Rhodes stepped forward, his voice steady but tight. This is Earth Command, he said. You sent us a message. We ask you to explain. For a long breath, nothing came. Only the hollow hum of the alien ship echoing through the channel. Then the alien commander spoke, his words slow and heavy. My name is Kael'thar, commander of the Ordran people. My thirst is not for water, will you quench it? The words were the same. But this time there was weight in his tone. It was not a simple phrase, it was a plea wrapped in armor. The humans leaned closer, trying to catch any hidden meaning. What do you mean? Rhodes pressed, his eyes locked with the alien's burning gaze. Kael'thar lowered his head, the edges of his silver-black armor catching the dim light. You humans are young, yet you carry something my people lost long ago, he said. We have food, we have water, we have technology greater than the stars, but still we die. His voice cracked slightly, though his face remained strong. We thirst for something no machine can build, no weapon can steal. The humans exchanged quick glances, confusion mixing with fear. Rhodes narrowed his eyes. What is it that you want from us? For the first time, the alien commander looked uncertain. He raised his hand slowly as if holding something invisible. We thirst for fire, not the fire that burns flesh, but the fire that burns inside hearts. The crew shivered, goosebumps crawling over their arms. Fire inside hearts? What could that mean? Rhodes clenched his jaw. You mean courage, don't you? Kael'thar's glowing eyes flickered brighter, a faint nod escaping him. Yes, courage, spirit. The will to stand when all else falls. The alien explained that his people, the Ordran, had ruled vast worlds. They had built empires of metal and light, crushed their enemies and reached the edge of the galaxy. But with every victory, with every century, something faded within them. They no longer fought for survival. They no longer dreamed. Their hearts grew empty. Their souls grew hollow. Now their species was fading, not from hunger, not from thirst, but from lack of spirit. My warriors march, Kael'thar said bitterly. But they do not feel. My people live, but they do not burn without spirit. We are already dead. His voice dropped lower, almost like a whisper. We watched you humans, we saw your wars, your struggles, your triumphs. You carry the fire we no longer have. You are our last hope. The room filled with silence again. No one moved, no one blinked. The crew felt the weight of his words pressing against their minds. The idea that an advanced alien race, strong enough to crush Earth in seconds, was begging humans for something invisible, something unmeasurable, something only humanity seemed to hold. Rhodes leaned forward, his voice steady. If this is true, how do you expect us to give it to you? Kael'thar's eyes dimmed. There is a way, but it is dangerous. Suspense hung heavy in the room. The crew waited, breath sharp as the alien revealed the truth. There is an ancient rite, Kael'thar explained, a ritual of essence. It allows one being to share the fire of their spirit with another. But it is not safe. The one who gives may not return. Their soul may scatter, their body may die. Gasps filled the control room. The translator repeated the words again. But the meaning was already clear. To help the Ordran, a human would have to risk their very soul. Rhodes felt his stomach twist, the weight of command heavier than ever. You're asking us to sacrifice one of our own, he said quietly. Kael'thar's gaze did not break. I am asking you to save an entire species. The crew exchanged worried looks. Was it a trap? Or was this alien truly desperate? The Ordran ship had shown no signs of attack, no weapons raised, only this plea. But the risk was terrifying. How could courage, how could spirit be drained like water? And what if it left the human empty, gone forever? Kael'thar's voice softened, almost human. My thirst is not for water, but for the flame of the soul. If you refuse, my people vanish into the dark. If you accept, one of you may never rise again. The words lingered like smoke. The humans felt the trap of fate closing in. Help them and risk death, refuse them, and carry the guilt of watching a race die? Captain Rhodes looked at his crew, each face pale, eyes full of fear and doubt, but beneath it, there was something else. The very fire the alien had spoken of. Human spirit, restless, unbroken, refusing to bow. The silence stretched until Rhodes finally said, We will bring this to Earth Command. But know this, alien. If what you ask is true, then we must decide carefully. Humanity does not give its fire lightly. Kael'thar bowed his head. Decide quickly, for my people are dying, and time is a river that does not wait. The transmission ended, the screen went black, but the echo of his words stayed in every human heart aboard the station. A thirst not for water, but for the very fire of the human soul. The halls of Sentinel-1 were filled with restless footsteps. Crew members whispered in corners, their voices low and tense. The alien request was too strange, Too dangerous, too heavy for human hearts. A thirst not for water, but for the fire of courage itself. Captain Rhodes walked alone through the observation deck. Stars shone beyond the glass, endless, cold, watching silently. He tried to imagine what kind of species could lose courage. Could a people so advanced forget how to fight, how to dream, how to live? The thought made him shiver. On Earth, debates raged across command centers. Leaders shouted, scientists argued. Generals clenched fists. Some called it a trap. Others called it destiny. But no one could ignore the alien words. An entire civilization stood on the edge of death asking for help. Back on Sentinel-1, the alien commander Kael'thar appeared again on the screen. This time he did not wait for questions. His voice carried urgency, each word sharp like iron. You ask what we seek? You ask what our need truly is, now you will see. The screen shifted, showing the inside of the alien ship. Rows of beings, tall and armored, but lifeless in their stance, eyes dull, movement slow, like puppets without strings. They are my soldiers, Kael'thar said, his tone heavy. They march when commanded. They fight when ordered, but they do not feel. They do not burn. He moved the image to show cities of his people. Massive towers touched the clouds. Ships soared between them. But the streets below were silent, faces blank, children without laughter, workers without will. My people live, but they are already dead inside, the alien commander confessed. We lost the flame of purpose, the thirst that drives life forward. Without it, we fade into nothing. The crew watched with cold fear. It was not a lie, it was not an illusion. The Ordrin were powerful. Yet hollow their empire stood, but their spirit was dust. Kael'thar turned back to the humans, his eyes burning brighter now. You humans do not understand your gift. You fight even when hope is gone. You rise even when the world falls. You carry a fire that refuses to die. That is what we thirst for. Captain Rhodes clenched his fists. The truth hit hard. The aliens' need was not for food, not for water, not for land. They wanted something invisible, untouchable yet stronger than steel. The human spirit itself, how can it be given? Rhodes asked, his voice low. Kael'thar spoke with grim weight. There is an ancient rite forbidden by our ancestors. It binds two beings in soul and essence, one gives, the other receives. But if the giver is weak, if their fire breaks, they will die. The words struck like thunder. Every crew member felt the chill. To save the Ordrin, a human would have to walk into the ritual. A ritual that might end in death. Rhodes narrowed his eyes. You ask for sacrifice? Kael'thar's reply was calm, but his voice shook with hidden sorrow. I ask for salvation, for both my people and yours. If the Ordrin die, our empire falls, and the balance of the galaxy will shatter. War will come, not by our hands, but by the predators waiting in the dark. The crew exchanged nervous glances. The alien was not only begging, and he was warning. If his people fell, others would rise to claim their place, and humanity might be the first to burn. The silence stretched. Rhodes felt the eyes of his crew on him, waiting for his decision. His heart pounded, but he said nothing yet. Instead, he asked the question that haunted them all. Why us? Why humans? You could have chosen any species. Why come to Earth? Kael'thar lowered his head, and for the first time, his voice cracked with something close to emotion. Because we watched you. We saw your kind rise from mud and fire. We saw you bleed, fall, rise again, no matter how small, no matter how broken. You never surrendered, even in your weakness. You burned brighter than empires, and we envy that fire. The room grew colder, heavier. The humans realized the alien commander was not lying. He was desperate, his people desperate, and in their desperation, they saw humans not as prey, not as rivals, but as carriers of the very thing they had lost. The crew shifted uneasily. One question now haunted them: if they refused, would they let an entire race die? And if they accepted, who among them would risk their soul to quench a thirst that was not for water but for the human spirit itself? Kael'thar's final words echoed in the chamber like a blade against stone. Decide quickly, humans, for every moment you wait, another flame dies among my people, and soon, only darkness will remain. The screen went black, but the weight of his words stayed. The choice was now in human hands: to protect their own lives, or to risk everything to save a people who had lost the one thing humanity could never live without: spirit. The council chamber on Earth buzzed with noise. Screens lit up with the faces of leaders. Generals and scientists' voices clashed like waves in a storm, each carrying fear, anger, or doubt. The alien request had shaken the world, and now every nation demanded answers. General Hart slammed his fist on the table, his voice sharp and unyielding. "This is a trap," he growled. "We cannot hand over human lives for some alien ritual. We should prepare weapons, target that ship, and strike before it's too late." Across the table, Dr. Elena Shaw shook her head, her eyes burning with defiance. "No, if they wanted to destroy us, they could have done it already. They came asking, not attacking. That means they are desperate." The room filled with arguments, each louder than the last. Some feared extinction. Others saw opportunity. A few believed it was humanity's duty to help, while others believed survival came first. But no one could deny one truth. The alien commander had spoken with honesty. The Ordren were fading, and the fire of the human spirit was their last hope. Meanwhile, aboard Sentinel-1, Captain Rhodes stood with his officers. They had received the same debate from Earth Command, but Rhodes knew the decision would fall on someone here. He paced the floor, his boots echoing against the steel. "They need a volunteer," he said quietly. "One of us would have to step forward, enter their ritual, risk never coming back." The crew shifted uneasily, silence pressing on their shoulders. Lieutenant Vega finally spoke, her voice steady. "If their story is true, if their people really are dying, then refusing means letting a race vanish. But if we accept, we could be sending someone to their death." Rhodes looked at each face in turn. Some tried to hide their fear, others stared back with silent courage. He knew the weight of command, but this choice was heavier than war itself. It was not about ships or weapons, it was about spirit. About sacrifice. Later that night, alone in his cabin, Rhodes replayed Kelthar's words in his mind. "My thirst is not for water. Will you quench it?" He stared at the stars outside his window, cold and endless for the first time in his career. He felt the crushing scale of the galaxy, and the strange truth that maybe humanity's greatest strength was not its weapons, but its will to fight. A knock broke his thoughts. Lieutenant Vega entered, her face pale but determined. "I'll do it," she said, her voice clear. "I'll be the one to take the ritual." Rhodes froze, shock flashing across his face. "No, you don't even know what it will do to you," he replied sharply. But Vega did not flinch. "I know, but someone has to step forward. If we hide, if we refuse, then we are no better than the hollow people he showed us." Her words struck deep. Rhodes felt the fire in them, the very fire Kelthar spoke about. The spirit to risk everything when logic says no. The courage to move forward even when death waits at the door. But Rhodes could not allow it, not yet. "This is not your choice alone," he said firmly. "This decision belongs to all of us." He called the crew to the main chamber. Each officer, each soldier standing in silence. Rhodes spoke slowly, his voice steady. "We have been asked to risk one of our own, to give the fire of humanity to another species. This is not a command I can give. This is a choice only a volunteer can make." The room grew still. For a moment no one moved, the weight of fear holding them back. Then one by one hands began to rise. Not only Vega, but others too, young officers, hardened veterans, even scientists who had never seen combat. Each stood and offered themselves. "I will do it," they said. Voices firm, eyes steady. In that moment, Rhodes realized the truth. Kelthar had been right. The fire of humanity was not rare. It was everywhere, burning in every soul. But only one could go. Rhodes raised his hand, silencing the room. "Enough," he said, his voice heavy. "The choice is made." The crew stared at him. Confused, he straightened his shoulders. Eyes hard, "I am the commander of this station. It is my duty to take this risk if anyone must walk into the unknown. It will be me." Gasps filled the chamber, protests erupted. "No, sir, no. You can't," Vega began, but Rhodes cut her off. "This is not bravery, this is responsibility. If the fire of humanity must be shared, then let it be carried by the one who leads." The crew stood in silence. Torn between pride and sorrow, Rhodes knew the danger, knew the price. But deep inside, he also felt the strange pull of destiny. Maybe this was why he had lived through wars, through battles, through loss, to stand here now facing the unknown. A message was sent to the alien ship. "We have decided," Rhodes said into the channel, his voice calm. "I will come aboard your vessel. I will face your ritual." Kelthar appeared on the screen, his glowing eyes softening. "Then humanity has spoken," he said, bowing his head. "Prepare yourself, for once you enter, there is no turning back." The transmission ended. Silence wrapped around Sentinel-1, heavy and final. The decision was made, the path chosen. One human would walk into the fire of the unknown, to quench a thirst not for water, but for the spirit of life itself. The docking bay of the alien ship opened like the mouth of a beast. Dark steel walls curved upward, glowing faintly with red veins of light. Captain Rhodes stepped forward, his boots echoing across the alien floor behind him. His crew watched in silence from the human shuttle, hearts pounding with fear. Kael'thar, the alien commander, waited at the center of the bay. His tall figure stood firm, silver-black armor gleaming under the dim lights. When Rhodes approached, Kael'thar bowed his head. "You are brave to come," he said, his voice low. "Few among any species would choose this path." Rhodes kept his eyes sharp, his voice calm. "I came because someone had to. If humanity's spirit means something to you, then I will carry it." Kael'thar extended his arm, guiding Rhodes deeper into the ship. They walked through silent corridors lined with alien soldiers. Their armor was flawless, their stance perfect, but their eyes were empty. No spark, no fire, only hollow obedience. It sent a chill through Rhodes. This was the cost of losing spirit. A people alive but already dead inside. At last they entered the ritual chamber. It was vast and circular, its walls covered in strange markings that glowed with pale light. At the center stood a raised platform surrounded by curved pillars. Energy pulsed between them, humming with a sound that shook the bones. "This is the place," Kael'thar said, his voice carrying a mixture of reverence and fear. "The rite of essence, forbidden for centuries. Yet now it is our only hope." Rhodes stepped onto the platform, his chest tight. The air felt heavier here, charged, as if it carried the weight of countless souls. Strange symbols flared under his boots. Responding to his presence, Kael'thar moved to the opposite side, standing inside another circle of light. "We will be bound," Kael'thar explained. "Your fire will flow into me and I will carry it to my people. But if your fire breaks, it will burn you away, and you will not return." Rhodes swallowed hard, but he did not flinch. "I understand," he said firmly. "Begin." The pillars came alive, energy swirling upward like liquid fire. The chamber darkened, the only light the glow of the ritual itself. Rhodes felt a pull deep inside, as if invisible hands had reached into his chest. A force stronger than gravity tugged at him, drawing out something beyond flesh. His knees trembled, his breath caught, but he held his ground. Kael'thar's eyes burned brighter, his body shaking as the fire began to pour into him. For the first time, the alien commander let out a sound like a gasp, almost human. "I feel it. Your spirit." "Raw and fierce," he whispered. Images flashed in his mind. Wars, victories, sacrifices, laughter, tears. The human will to survive, the human refusal to kneel. It seared into his essence, filling him with a strength he had long forgotten. But for Rhodes it was agony. The fire leaving him tore at his soul. Pulling at memories and emotions, he saw visions of his own past. Battles fought, comrades lost, his oath to protect humanity. Each memory flickered and dimmed as the fire drained from him. His body shook violently, sweat dripping, his heartbeat faltering. Still, he clenched his teeth. Refusing to collapse, the chamber roared louder, energy twisting like a storm. The crew watching through the screen cried out, "Sir, hold on!" Vega shouted, her fists pressed against the glass. But Rhodes could not answer, his mouth open in a silent scream. Every second felt like eternity. His spirit stretched thin, ready to snap. Kael'thar's body pulsed with new light, his armor glowing as the fire spread through him. Strength returned to his voice, his presence towering with renewed power. But then he saw Rhodes begin to fall, his fire weakening, his body crumbling. Kael'thar's eyes widened, torn between victory and horror. He had what he came for, but the human who gave it was dying before his eyes. The alien soldiers around the chamber stood unmoved, their faces empty. To them, one human life meant nothing. But to Kael'thar it meant everything, for in Rhodes's sacrifice, he saw the very courage he had begged to find, the true fire of humanity, burning even in its final breath. Rhodes collapsed to his knees, his vision blurring. Darkness crept at the edges. Pulling him into nothingness, Kael'thar staggered forward, gripping the control console. "If I let him die, I save my people," he thought, "but if I save him, I may lose everything." The chamber shook as the energy built to its peak. The ritual demanded a price, and it was ready to claim Rhodes. Kael'thar's hand hovered over the final sequence. One choice would seal the fate of his people. The other would honor the human sacrifice. For the first time in centuries, Kael'thar felt something new. Conflict, his people had taught him duty. But the human fire had taught him compassion. His chest burned, not from the ritual but from the spark Rhodes had given him. The choice was no longer about survival, but about what it meant to truly live. As Rhodes's body slumped, his fire nearly gone, Kael'thar made his decision. He slammed his hand on the console, redirecting the flow. Energy surged not into himself, but back into the human. The chamber screamed with light. Sparks tearing through the air, Kael'thar's voice roared, not in command, but in defiance. "You will not die here, human. Not while your fire still burns." The ritual flared, shaking the ship. Rhodes's body lifted, light flooding his veins, his breath returning. Kael'thar fell to his knees. Weakened but alive, the fire had been shared. Not stolen, and both still stood. But the price was not yet clear. Had Kael'thar gained enough to save his people? Had Rhodes lost more than he realized? The chamber quieted, the storm fading, leaving only two figures standing, one human, one alien, bound by fire and fate. The ritual chamber fell silent. Smoke drifted across the floor. Glowing sparks still hung in the air. The great pillars dimmed, their humming fading into nothing. Two figures remained standing, one human, one alien, both trembling, both forever changed. Captain Rhodes staggered forward, his body weak but alive. His chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. His eyes wide with exhaustion. He could still feel the fire inside him. But it was different now, like a flame that had been shared. No longer his alone, Kael'thar knelt opposite him. His armor scorched, his body shaking, but his eyes burned brighter than before, not with desperation but with something new. For the first time in centuries, the alien commander felt it, courage. It rushed through him, filling the hollow spaces, making his heart pound with a strength he thought was lost. He looked up at Rhodes, his voice unsteady but strong. "You gave me more than I asked for, human. You gave me not only your fire, but your will to protect even at the edge of death." Rhodes leaned against a pillar, his hand gripping the cool surface. He could barely speak, but his words were clear. "Then use it wisely. Don't waste what nearly cost my life." The alien soldiers standing around the chamber watched silently, their faces still empty, their eyes still dull. They had not yet changed. They had not yet felt the fire. But they could see it in their commander. Something different, something alive. Kael'thar rose slowly to his feet, taller, stronger. The glow in his eyes spread into his armor. Pulsing with new energy, he clenched his fists. And for the first time, he felt power born not from machines but from spirit. "This is what we lost," he said almost in awe. "This is what we must reclaim." But Rhodes's body began to falter, his knees weak, his vision swimming. The ritual had returned some of his fire, but not all. A deep emptiness lingered inside him. A hollow weight. He had given away a part of himself, and it would never fully return. Kael'thar saw it, and guilt struck him. He had gained strength, but the human before him had paid the price. The alien commander knelt once more, lowering his head in respect. "I should have let you die, for that was the law of the right. But in saving you, I learned the greater truth of your fire. It is not only courage, it is compassion, and that is what we must learn if we are to live again." The chamber doors opened, revealing the crew of Sentinel-1 standing at the threshold. Lieutenant Vega rushed forward, catching Rhodes as he swayed. Her eyes burned with anger and relief. "You nearly killed yourself," she whispered fiercely. But Rhodes only managed a weak smile. Someone always has to. Kael'thar watched this moment with a strange ache in his chest. He had never seen loyalty like this, never seen comrades risk their hearts for one another. The Ordran had discipline, obedience, strength. But they had lost this. The bond of spirit, the bond of sacrifice. The alien commander turned to his soldiers, his voice rising with new fire. "Look at them," he commanded. "They burn with courage, they stand together. They bleed for each other. This is the fire we thirst for, and it is not beyond our reach. If one human could give me this flame, then we too can learn to carry it again." The soldiers shifted, their eyes flickering faintly. For the first time, something stirred in their hollow faces, a spark, small but real, as if Kael'thar's transformation was awakening something in them too. Rhodes, leaning on Vega, stared at Kael'thar with sharp eyes. "You've tasted our fire? Now the question is, what will you do with it?" Will you rebuild your people, or will you burn the galaxy with it? Kael'thar's gaze hardened, but his voice carried the weight of his vow. No, human, I will not waste this gift. I will teach my people what we have forgotten. I will remind them that true strength is not in weapons or conquest. It is in the fire that refuses to die, the fire you carry, the fire you shared. Silence filled the chamber, but it was no longer empty. It was heavy with possibility, with change. With the first breath of something new, the Ordren were no longer only hollow shells. Their commander now carried the fire of humanity within him, and through him the seeds of transformation had begun. But as Rhodes stood there, weak but alive, he knew one truth. The ritual had not only changed Kael'thar, it had bound them together. Two lives, two species now tied by fire and fate. The future of the Ordren, and perhaps humanity itself, would depend on what came next. Kael'thar extended his hand to Rhodes, not as a commander, not as an alien, but as a warrior honoring another. Rhodes took it, his grip weak but steady, and in that moment, both knew that nothing would ever be the same. The alien ship drifted silently above Earth. Inside, the air still carried the echo of the ritual, heavy with smoke and light. Captain Rhodes stood weak but alive, his body trembling, his fire dimmed yet unbroken. Beside him stood Kael'thar, taller now, eyes burning with a new glow. A glow that was not only alien but human. The crew of Sentinel-1 guided Rhodes back toward their shuttle. But before he could leave, Kael'thar raised his hand. His voice filled the chamber. "Wait," he said. "Do not go yet. There is something all must witness." The alien commander turned to his soldiers, rows of armored warriors standing in silence. Their faces were still empty, but their eyes flickered faintly. He stepped forward, his voice powerful, carrying across the chamber like thunder. "My people, we have walked in shadows for too long. We thought strength was steel. We thought power was obedience. But we were wrong. Strength is not hollow. Power is not empty. Strength is fire. And fire lives in spirit." The soldiers shifted, some lowering their weapons, others raising their heads. Kael'thar lifted his hand, and light flared from his veins. Not the cold glow of machines, but the warm blaze of courage. It spread across the chamber, touching every soldier, sparking something deep inside. One by one, their eyes lit faintly, not as bright as Kael'thar's, but real alive. Rhodes watched in silence, his heart heavy but hopeful. The alien commander had not lied. The fire was spreading. Human spirit had taken root in alien hearts, and with it a race once hollow began to awaken. Kael'thar turned back to Rhodes, his voice low but strong. "You asked what we would do with your fire. Human, we will not burn worlds, we will not enslave. We will carry it, we will protect it, we will learn from it. Your sacrifice has given us not only life but meaning." Rhodes's breath came slow, his voice rough but steady. "Then prove it. Prove that this gift is not wasted. Show the galaxy that the Ordren are more than hollow shells. Show them that fire can return to even the darkest hearts." Kael'thar bowed his head deeply, not as a commander but as a warrior honoring another. "My thirst is not for water," he said, his words soft yet unshakable. "My thirst was for spirit, for courage, for the flame of life, and you, human, have quenched it." The chamber fell into silence, but it was not the silence of emptiness. It was the silence of something new being born. The Ordren soldiers slowly bowed their heads, following their commander for the first time in generations. They felt not only duty but pride. A spark flickered in their hearts, fragile but real. The humans aboard Sentinel-1 could only watch in awe. They had come expecting war, but instead they had given hope. A single act of courage had reshaped the fate of an entire race. Rhodes, weak and leaning on Vega's shoulder, turned toward the shuttle. His body hurt, his soul felt hollow, but deep inside he carried no regret. This was what humanity was meant to do. Not to conquer, not to destroy, but to inspire. To remind even the stars that fire was never meant to die. As the shuttle doors closed, Kael'thar placed his hand on his chest. He spoke one final vow, his voice echoing through the chamber. "We will rise again not as hollow warriors, but as keepers of the fire, and when history remembers this day, it will remember humanity as the ones who quenched our thirst." The shuttle detached, gliding back toward Sentinel-1. The alien ship remained in orbit, silent, watching, but no longer empty, for within it, hearts once hollow now carried sparks. The first sparks of a reborn people. Back on the station, Rhodes collapsed into a chair. His crew surrounding him, Vega whispered, You gave them everything, sir. Rhodes shook his head slowly, his voice faint but firm. No, Vega, I gave them a piece of what we all carry. The fire is not mine alone, it belongs to every human. And that is why they needed us. The crew stood in silence, the weight of his words sinking deep. For they understood now what made humanity different. Not weapons, not ships, not numbers, but spirit. The unyielding flame that refused to die. Outside the station window, the alien ship glowed faintly, like a torch lit in the darkness of space. A promise that even in the void, even in despair, fire could return. And so the tale ended not with war, not with conquest, but with fire shared. One human, one alien. Bound by sacrifice, one question asked. One answer given. A thirst quenched not with water, but with spirit.